Okay, here's another video of the Mack 136 sliding camper. Here's the flatbed trailer that it's going to be used on, sliding in it, not attached to it. And it's going to be very light, so we use these 2.5-inch metal studs. These weigh about the third of the weight of a 2x4, so it makes it extra light. We're going to keep it under 3,500 pounds. There is a little bit of wood needed. He needed these 3/4-inch plyboard for the floor. They're bolted to that metal corrugated floor. But a lot of metal's needed, and it just takes these tin snips to take care of it, along with these metal self-tapping screws. And you just screw it together, measure it out. A little bit of wood is needed every once in a while. And when you cut these, you use tin snips, and as you see, it leaves these barbs on the corner, so you have to cut those off. They will grab your clothes and your skin. For the curved part, we use this curved metal, this metal that can be shaped the way you want it with what curve you want in it. You take the hammer and you tap the tabs in to lock them in, and then the second wall, you just put it on top of it, you shape it, and then tap the tabs in to lock your shape in that you need. Again, tin snips. As you see, I'm not wearing gloves, but please wear your gloves. You can use a square to square off these beams to cut, but if you cut one side and exactly the other on the other side, it'll give you a square cut. So actually, you don't always need the square. But these screw to your, they just screw together, and it's quite easy. Here's the heavy aluminum floor. We took plyboard and screwed it to the metal, to the aluminum, to make our deck for the floor. Stays rust-free, and it works really well. Again, it makes it rigid enough so when this is sliding on and off the trailer, it doesn't move or twist or bend too much. It gives it a nice strength. Here are the walls coming up, the two, one on top of the other, with the 2.5-inch studs in them. This wall is very light. Again, when you set them up, it's very light, so it keeps our weight down. Same thing with the roof, using those studs. You do have to do some bracing here and there to make sure you square it up before the outside wall goes up. Again, those tin snips, and I'm not wearing gloves, sorry, but make sure you do. Here's one of the beds, so it's already going in. It's going to slide out. The slide-out camper is going to sleep 5 people. So make sure you use safety tools. Here are these barbs that are coming off, just so they don't scratch or cut anyone or tear the clothes up. So be very careful again. Here's a box of some really good heavy gauge metal screws that were used, self-tapping. And these also did well. I used 1 or 3/4-inch self-tapping screws, and they did it very well. Just need a drill, even a cordless. So here's the wall in place. Of course, some of these beams aren't quite straight. They're just they're temporary until we can get it squared up. Sitting on the trailer, but not bolted to it, so it can slide right off and right on, and you can use the trailer for something else during the time you're not camping, or take the camper and leave it somewhere and bring your trailer back home. Windows are going in. Did a little raining, so I had to use a little tarp to keep some of the water off. Some of these bands, again, are used to stabilize it while it's being put together, but some will come off. And a few will actually stay to add rigid to the camper. Side windows. These windows do roll open. You'll have no windows in the front. It's going to be a curved piece of metal. This is inside before the walls are up. Nice and spacious to only be 13.5 foot long and 6 foot wide. Again, I'm trying to take advantage of this canvas and slowing the water down. There's my sink basin I've already built in. Again, I use metal for it, and I'm going to enclose it with Luan to make it look like a wood cabinet, but actually it'll have a metal frame. Here are the diamond metals on the front. Getting ready to curve this sheet metal to go over top of it, and there it is in place. Gives it a nice little curve, helps with wind resistance, and I'm going to be using this Luan for the roof. Again, it just screws down into the metal. And here's my secret weapon for keeping the roof dry. 10-year guarantee, no leak. Here's the metal on the side, 20 and 22 gauge metal, and it's very sturdy. It gives you really nice solid walls, although it does rust. So this metal is all new, but we're going to have to prime it real well. Again, more of the Luan on the roof. Some of the beams, had to make sure I had space for the vents and all. Here's the solar panel that we're going to be using outside of the camper. If we're camping in the shade, we'll be able to use these away from the camper and still charge up our 200 amp hour batteries. Along with that is also going to be a 150 watt solar panel on the roof, so we'll have plenty of power, so it'll be self-contained. There's some metal corrugated floor on standby for the next project. Again, testing out some of that primer paint in the can. Works well. Here I had to cut an opening for the door. There's a side door on the sliding camper, so I had to open up a space for a rail, and I locked it in place, and a bolt on the other side, so it gives it that stiffness back to the trailer. It doesn't lose it. Here it is before it was cut in, but it had to be cut in to open that side. And also I had to do a little cutting on the back. It was about 1 inch too wide with some of the metal bracing on the trailer, so I had to cut off a 1/2 inch on each side. A little more of that primer just to test it to see how it does, and it really works well. That Rust-Oleum does real well in the can, but it's going to have to be sanded and done well. Well, thanks a lot. Check us out for the next one.